All right, let's go ahead and check in with weather impacts again. It's been really interesting to see how the smoke from the wildfires is making its way into various cities. I know, Brittany, you've been following that.
Yes, it essentially gets picked up by the jet stream, and so depending on where the wind direction is coming from, that's how we get this result. I know Colin, Vanessa, and I were talking about this last night and a little bit earlier, but if you remember a couple of years ago, we had really crazy Canadian wildfires that were essentially constantly pushing smoke down to our south and southeast. Now, of course, some of that did eventually make it closer to the Charlotte area like this one, but that was because of a series of cold fronts. We got one big cold front that would push it. Of course, the wind direction would eventually change, things would get better, and it just kind of happened in a cycle. At least because this isn't really cold front season, I'm hopeful that that won't happen with this one, but you can see a notable amount of smoke before, of course, the sun went down, and now we don't have the newest satellite data because visible satellite only occurs when the sun is up. Fun little fact there. Here's a wider view here of a different kind of satellite that we use, and you can see some of these areas still producing what looks like rain. Mostly, though, is going to be, of course, those pyrocumulus clouds from that fire itself, similar to what happened with the South Park fire, as we saw. Of course, that fire itself created its own weather. This is very common in these type of setups. Closer to home, we're pretty dry and quiet, and I do think we'll see a few more thunderstorms tomorrow, much more than what we had today, but it's still going to be few and far between. You can see the temperature inversion still there, which means the cap is still going to limit some of those storms from being able to grow, but I do think we'll see more again than today, where it was only a brief shower or thunderstorm, mainly down in Lancaster County. So you kind of blink and you miss it with this one tomorrow. Mostly dry still heading into Saturday, but you'll notice what looks like a squall line forming up in the mountains by lunchtime. That's along a cold front. This will be a more active afternoon overall, and there is a low risk of showers and thunderstorms becoming strong to severe. Now we have almost always a low risk for severe weather in the Carolinas in the summer when we have a setup like this. So when we have the heat and humidity and we have the trigger of the cold front. Sometimes how hot and humid we are or time of day can impact how high that risk is, but a low risk again is relatively common. This doesn't mean that you have a significantly higher risk if you're, down in Rock Hill versus Charlotte versus Lincolnton. It just means that where the storms develop, there's a low risk that some of them will see those winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. It's more than likely that they'll be about 40 to 50, but even wind damage can be caused by 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, especially here in the Carolinas. We have so many trees, and we already have seen some of those trees become a bit weaker too with the big swaths of rain we've seen, right? It hasn't happened everywhere, but where we've seen those big drops of rain, those flash flooding risks, now that soil, now that ground is a little bit shaky. So we have to watch those areas especially closely. Sunday, a little bit more storm activity compared to Saturday, which we are hopeful will help with the drought setup. Today, we did get a drought update. Things did improve slightly, but not widespread across the Carolinas, and we know we still need more. Again, I'm optimistic that Sunday will bring a few more storms in on Saturday, but no day is a washout. No day is going to be bad to get out and about. I would choose, if I had to, choose one or the other, it'd be Saturday, not because of the heat not being bad, but because of the storm potential and the likelihood that you'll see storms is much higher on Sunday. Here's that Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. More storms stick around in the forecast early next week as we track a lot more humidity over the next couple of days here into the first few days of a new week. You'll notice overnight lows are a lot toastier in the mid to upper 70s. That indicates that increase in humidity, largely due to this tropical moisture we'll be tracking down in the Gulf. Again, not a high risk or really even a medium risk that any kind of tropical development happens, but it's a high risk across the board that we're very sticky over the next 7 days.